People who live in Killingly are trying to stop a proposed Amazon warehouse.
Yeah, people who live in the quiet corner packed a town council meeting about this, raising a lot of concerns about potential issues like traffic and noise. Your reporter Taylor Knight is live in Killingly to explain what folks there want to see happen next.
Yeah, at last night's meeting, people raised many concerns, including that truck traffic and water quality. They also say that voters should get a direct say in this warehouse through a ballot question in November. Resident after resident got up to speak at the town council meeting last night about a proposed Amazon warehouse. The company wants to buy more than 500 acres, tearing down dense forest and spending $200 million for a 1 million square foot facility. Concerns include truck traffic, water quality, and property values. Several residents spoke in favor of a moratorium, saying the town needs more time to review zoning rules before any more large-scale industrial projects can move forward. Others asked the council to support a non-binding ballot question, arguing it would give planning and zoning a clearer picture of where residents stand.
I support the moratorium on warehouse and distribution centers. Killingly's time to step back, review the impacts, and make sure our zoning protects the town before more large-scale projects move forward. A pause is not anti-business, it's responsible planning.
The Planning and Zoning Commission is expected to discuss this warehouse during their next meeting on Monday. Your reporter live in Killingly, Taylor Knight, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.